wife of 12 years cheated on me 4 years ago while I was deployed and just told me. I'll try to keep this as short as I can. 31 male and 31 female. Married for 8 years and together for 12. Lived in 5 states and traveled to 20 plus countries together. Decent amount of that time was spent apart, 3 years, for my various trainings and deployments, but we sent letters and emails to each other throughout. It wasn't easy, but we did our best and got through it. I got out of the military late 2016 and we started a life together again in a new city. We were doing well, and in 2019 she asked to try an open relationship and we started working with a marriage therapist to help us through it. It took me a lot of self-learning and intense focus to get over the jealousy aspect, but it was balanced out by my attraction to the concept of it. I saw 2 people during our open relationship and she saw between 8 and 10. I quickly learned how easy it is to be a woman on dating apps. Overall, it actually wasn't as hard to maintain as I expected. We read a lot about it, listened to tons of podcasts. We were well prepared and seemingly transparently learned a tremendous amount about ourselves and each other. Though I don't think I could maintain it long term. It was a lot of work. When COVID came around, we put it on pause basically. We never really sat down and said it was officially over, but we decided it was a bad idea to continue for health and safety purposes. Last weekend, she told me we needed to talk. She confessed to me that 4 years ago, when I was deployed in the military and the month before I came home, she slept with a guy she used to work with in 2012. Just one time, but never told me until last week. This was well before we had even entertained the open agreement. Moreover, when she flew to a different state last month to visit some friends, she apparently ended up hooking up with a guy friend of hers 2 times while away. She also confessed this to me last weekend along with the 2016 cheating. When she got back initially she just said she hung out with some old guy friends, no mention of her hookups. In our open situation, she had slept with 3 or 4 guys, but again that was during our mutual, transparent agreement. I understand this might be viewed in a certain light given our open pseudo-open 6-month relationship. But I'm less focused on that and more focused on her cheating on me when we were 1,000,000% monogamous, and totally lying to me about what she did last month while traveling. I feel disrespected, sad, enraged. We both have worked hard for this relationship, shared incredible experiences, and have done some truly amazing life building together, so the thought of ending it is a nightmare. I asked her to leave for a week, got my own therapist, in addition to our couples, and I made the decision to hire a divorce attorney since we have several assets needing a professional's attention. I feel like I can't ever trust her again, so what is the point of being with her? I also told her I think she might have some form of between the open thing and the cheating. I talked to her for the first time in a week today and she made me feel like I was overreacting. She apologized profusely and asked to start over again. She said I will not do any work, all of the trust building will be on her. She wants a restart and swears there will be no open relationship, no cheating, no lying, no cover-ups. She said we can recover better than ever. She said she waited so long to tell me because she was afraid of losing me and got trapped in her lies. She said she hooks up with other guys to feel like people like her and want to give her attention. She gains a feeling of self-worth from it because that is something she struggles with. I told her I retained a divorce attorney and she pleaded to do a separation for a while and thinks I was overreacting with my retaining a divorce attorney. I suffered a lot of trauma growing up. I just want to protect myself, my feelings, and my future, no matter how hard it might be to end something I've enjoyed so much. Trust is so huge to me. I can't ever look at her the same again. Am I overreacting or the crazy one here? We've been through so much together. I can't tell up from down anymore. She seems bewildered on why I was being so deadly serious about the betrayal and how, after everything I've put into keeping us together, long distance, combat deployments, open relationship, all the moves, etc., there was no second chance for her. Edit, after a week's worth of advice from here, from close friends, and my therapist, I am moving forward with the divorce and she will get all of the paperwork next week. My 29 years old female, ex-husband's 32 years old male, affair partner, 31 years old female, is accusing me of being a homewrecker. Hi guys, I've been reading this sub for a few weeks now and I really wish I had found it before D-Day. Sorry if this is long but I wanted to get this out. D-Day was about 1.5 years ago. I, 29F, found out my now ex-husband, 32M, was having an affair because he got his AP, 31F, pregnant and he was leaving me to be with her and his baby. Her being pregnant was especially painful because we had been trying to get pregnant for a whole year without any success. I made every mistake you could possibly make when finding out about an affair. I did the pick me dance but in overdrive. My ex left for 2 weeks before coming back to try and make things work. The trickle truth started then. He claimed she had lied about the baby and he was no longer speaking to her. He also claimed that they hadn't had an affair. He called it that when he first confessed, but it had been a drunk-ons. He claimed he never wanted to leave but felt like he had to be with her for his child and that he never wanted her and would never have touched her had he been sober. I didn't question him much because I was just so relieved he was back. I didn't know who the AP was at this point and whenever I asked him who it was, he kept insisting it didn't matter. D-Day 2 was 2 months later. My ex treated me like crap during reconciliation. He was acting like I did something wrong by not being able to get pregnant and that his cheating never happened. Before D-Day 1, I never had any inclination that my ex was cheating on me. However, during our false reconciliation, there were more typical cheater signs. So, I ended up snooping through his phone whilst he was sleeping. And it was devastating. I found out that they had never stopped seeing each other. That he only came back because she had gotten an at my ex's insistence, because her husband would have found out she was having an affair. He was abroad during the time of conception, and that my ex convinced the AP to wait to leave her husband until he could get her the house she deserved. I found out that their affair had been going on for at least 8 months and that he had been buying her designer bags and other expensive gifts whilst we could barely afford the rent. I was paying almost all of the bills at this point because he told me he was paying for his mom's medical bills. I'd like to think I reacted better after D-Day 2. I didn't confront my ex. Instead, I borrowed some money from my sister so I could hire a lawyer and serve him divorce papers. I did get screenshots of the messages and I started trying to find the AP's husband so I could give him a heads up. I ended up finding her on Facebook and honestly, I don't know why she would throw her life away for someone like my ex. I had to actually double check to make sure it was her because I just couldn't understand why someone would risk such a comfortable life to live with someone who barely scrapes by. Maybe that's shallow but as someone who has had to struggle because of how terrible my ex's spending habits are, I just couldn't comprehend it. I still hadn't found a way to contact the AP's husband when I finally served my ex with the papers and moved in with my sister. Thankfully, my name was not on the lease, so I wasn't stuck living with him. At first, he begged for a second chance and refused to sign them. In the end, I made it clear I knew who his AP was and that I was going to tell her husband about their affair if he didn't sign the papers. He ended up signing them if I promised to not tell his AP's husband because he didn't want me to hurt him. Ops. I couldn't contact the AP's husband even if I wanted to, so I agreed. My divorce was finalized quickly because we didn't have much to split. My ex continued to see his AP and I even met her once when I went to pick up the last of my stuff. That really pissed me off because I felt like she was getting her happily ever after with both guys whilst my life had just been shattered and I was forced to live in my sister's spare bedroom. My sister ended up finding her husband through LinkedIn of all places. I messaged him my number and asked him to call me because I had something to tell him about his wife. After 2 weeks, he finally called me. At first, he didn't believe me, but I emailed him the evidence I had. We stayed in contact whilst he tried to find his own evidence and hired a PI to confirm the affair was still ongoing. The AP and her husband separated, and he moved out. He ended up finding some more information out and he invited me over so he could show it to me and thank me in person. Most of it is irrelevant to this post, but I finally found out why my ex wanted his AP to get an abortion after so valiantly leaving me for her. They wanted to trap her husband into paying child support for their kid. Anyway, we got drunk and were talking about how screwed up the AP and my ex are, and one thing led to another. We didn't keep in touch after that, but I know from my ex, who sent me a bunch of abusive texts, that the AP and her husband got back together, and she dumped him. 2 months ago, I found out I was pregnant. The only person I've slept with is the odds. It took me a long time to decide what I was going to do about it, but 3 weeks ago, I sent him a text asking if we could meet up because I had something to tell him. The AP ended up calling me to scream at me and tell me to leave her husband alone and not to contact him again. I ended up calling him to tell him about the pregnancy and my plans to keep the baby. He was surprised about the baby but said he wanted to be involved. I'm assuming he told his ex-wife because she's been pestering me since to get an abortion. She even offered to pay for it. She's called me a few nasty names including a homewrecker and said her husband was leaving her because of me. She even got back in contact with my ex and he keeps sending me messages about how he's so hurt I would have another man's baby when I refused to have his and that this is why our marriage ended. The AP has even sent me a few of her and my ex's, which is gross. This situation is incredibly messy, but I just found it ironic that I'm now the homewrecker according to the AP.